Hey guys, I'm back again and I'm here to do another Vlogmas video. Today is Vlogmas day 15 and I thought I would come to talk to you about the Storygraph. So as you know, a lot of us are on, the very familiar website, which is Goodreads. I'm going to open my Goodreads so you can kind of see. So this is Goodreads, and this is the one that everybody is very familiar with. Problem with Goodreads is that Goodreads was good when it was Goodreads. Now it's Goodreads Amazon, so it's not as good. The website is pretty much, I would say it caters to Amazon. That is, it has moved everything around to the idea of encouraging members of Goodreads to buy books through Amazon on it. So it's become less about readers getting together and discussing books, and it's become more about Amazon wanting to sell books. So I'm still on there, as you can see there. I have finished my 50 book goal. I'm still at like 51 because I'm still reading Letters to Send. I haven't had time to read. I've been very busy this last month of the year. But we're going to talk about today is the Storygraph. Now, the Storygraph is very, very different from Goodreads. The Storygraph focuses on how you read and what you've been reading, not necessarily for any purchasing purposes. It's really for the reading purposes. Now, I'm not going to lie. It took me a minute to get used to this site. Now I am more used to the site, so I'm okay with it. So as you can see here, I'm open up to my home page. I have the home, the stats, reading challenges, community, and giveaways. Now, I stay away from giveaways because I live in France and there's hardly any giveaways that come my way anyway because of that. So here is the community tab, and the community tab allows us to communicate with the different people that we're friends with. So as you can see here on the right, you have friends and following. And then here they have another section, which is similar users. So that is based on the reading that I do. These people are similar readers, even though they're not my friends. And then, of course, down here you have buddy reads, which is really fun to use because you can start up a buddy read. I can't remember exactly how many people it is. I think it's like 7 or less. And so that's really interesting. And then here we have read-alongs, which is brand new. So you can do a read-along on here. I can't remember the amount of people, but it's a lot more people. And it should be very interesting when I do read-alongs, because I'll probably try to put it on here as well. So that's on the community page. And of course, you have community. You put here, you put in the name of the person, the user that you're looking for, or their email, and then up they will pop. So next, we're going to look at the reading challenges. Now, I have 3 reading challenges on here. So of course, it's the big reading goal. Mine was 50 books. It's done. I'm on 51, same as on Goodreads. And I did the 10 books, 10 decades, which was started over on Instagram. And that was done by Reggie Reads, which is kind of a cool way of looking at reading. And then here on the right, I have the 20 books by Black women challenge, which I am about to finish. As soon as I finish Letters to Send, I will have read 20 books by 20 Black women. And here we have the Something Bookish challenge. This year, I've done a lot better than previous years. I read 15 already. 15 prompts out of 24. This is a really interesting challenge because it really does encourage me to read even wider than I already do. So as you can see, some of the challenges are interesting. We have like a book by a North African author, a book with a long title, a book with an ensemble cast of characters, a book inspired by mythology, folklore, or legend, a book by a West African author. So you see they're very wide ranging. A book written by 2 authors, a novel with non-human characters or narrators. So I have been, charging along through this list. Hopefully I will be able to get maybe 1 or 2 more read on the list, which would make 18, and I'd be really happy about that. Okay, and then the 10 books, 10 decades is really interesting because I have here, you can see I did Jane Eyre, I did I Am Not Sidney Poitier, I did Jitterbug Perfume, I also did Perfect Peace, I did Wild, Beautiful, and Free. And we did How the Garcia Girls Lost Their Accents, The Bridge of Beyond. I did La Bête Humaine from Zola. And we did La Joie de Vivre by Zola. And that gave me different 10 decades, 10 books, 10 decades, very, very quickly. So I highly recommend you do that one. It's really makes you read widely, and I think it's kind of cool. All right. And then last but not least, I have 20 books by Black women, but I won't show you that just yet because I might be doing a video on that for you guys later on this week. So that's that. Now on to the interesting stuff. It's the stats. Okay, now, what I like about this is we get the stats in pie charts and colored pie charts, and I just think it's fantastic. First, we have moods and pace. Okay, so this is the 51 books, first of all, on a pie chart. So we have reflective, informative, adventurous, emotional, funny, challenging. Not a lot of funny, okay? Just a little bit of funny. Mysterious, sad, hopeful, dark, lighthearted, tense, and inspiring. So you can click on any chart segment to view the book. So if you look on the one that was funny, let's see. We have I'm Not Sidney Poitier, which it was funny. Emma was a little funny, but not really. It just infuriated me. Tom Robbins' Jitterbug Perfume, yeah, that was funny. The Bonfire of Vanities was not funny to me. It was just bad. That was kind of interesting, the funny, because there's not a lot of funny, but there's a lot of emotional in here. Okay, so the next we have is the pace. So 53% of the books I read were medium paced, and 39% were slow, and only like 8% were fast. So yeah, that sounds about right for me. I have not read a lot of fast-paced books this year, so I'm not too surprised by that. Now, if we go over the page number, we have the blue with 300 to 499. It's 45% of the books that I read fell into that category of 300 to 499, which I think is honestly pretty good because I was afraid that I would fall into a lower category, but I think that's it's pretty good. Now, from the 300 and less, it's 35%. And the 500 plus is 20%. Now that makes sense because you see it says 10, and that's what I pledge to read every year. I pledge to read books that are over 400 pages. I always want to read 10 or more. And here I've read 10, and this is 500 plus. So I did even better than previous years, which I think is fantastic. All right, next we have fiction and nonfiction. Well, y'all shouldn't be surprised by that. But, fiction is definitely what I love to read. And I've got it in here at 88%. Whereas with nonfiction, it's 12%. There's only 6 books. Now, I don't know. We're going to see how next year goes. But maybe I'll try to read maybe 8 nonfiction books next year just to, push me to read more nonfiction. So I'm not surprised by those stats. Now, this is interesting because this is the genre. And of course, not surprising, literary fiction is top of the line. Second is historical fiction. Third is classics, everything I love. These three, literary fiction, historical fiction, and classics. And those are the top three. Now, the ones that I read the least are autobiography and biography, fantasy. Yeah, this year, I think I read one fantasy, and that was Wild Seed, which frankly, I did not enjoy, but okay, I read it. I don't want to read part 2 nor part 3. There was a character in Wild Seed that just annoyed me to no end. So it's pretty low, but fantasy is always really low for me because I'm not a big fantasy reader. I prefer to consume fantasy in film form, movie form. Sadly, I didn't read more thrillers because I still need to finish a couple of series. Young adult, I don't know which one was young adult because, okay, so I'm surprised how the Garcia girls lost their accents considered young adult, but okay, because I usually don't read young adult. Dystopian, what did I read? That was, Chain Gang, definitely. That's definitely dystopian. LGBTQIA, I read 3 books. So I read Chiffon Trenches by Andre Leon Talley and Butter Honey Pig Bread and Chain Gang. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I really loved a lot Butter Honey Pig Bread. I highly recommend that if you haven't read it. And Chain Gang, I find that this was quite good too. I gave it a 3.5 because that's where my head was when I was reading it. It was in summer and there was something about the book that was putting me off. The Andre Leon Talley one, I gave it 3 stars because he did give us a good insight on the fashion world, but sadly the writing was just not there for that particular book. Let's see, what else is that? Okay, memoirs. I read 4 this year so far. Chiffon Trenches, of course, we just talked about that. Shame on Me, An Anatomy of Race and Belonging by Tessa McWatt, who is Canadian with a few other nationalities. And we read this with the Read So Lit book club, and it was super interesting. And then I read Self-Portrait in Black and White, and it's called Unlearning Race, and that's by Thomas Chatterton Williams, and I read that this summer, and this was a book that I had issues with his idea of trying to unlearn black and white and race and stuff, and he is a fair-skinned black man who has a black father who's dark-skinned, and he has a white mother. And he didn't start to question anything around race so specifically until he came to France, fell in love with a white French woman, got married. They had their first child, and their daughter was white like the mom with blonde hair. And that's when he started to ask these questions around race. So I feel like this is a book that would be interesting to discuss in a book club. And it would be interesting to discuss with friends in a mixed company, because I think there's like a lot to say about his thoughts on unlearning race. I think it's interesting. I don't always agree with everything he says, but I found it interesting nonetheless. And then, of course, the last one I read was The Yellow House, which is a memoir by Sarah M. Broom, which is in New Orleans. Her family home is in New Orleans East. And we read this in a Read So Lit book club that I run on Patreon. And we had a fantastic discussion of this book just last month. So those are all of the memoirs I've read. So not very many. I'm really got my head in the literary fiction like hard. So history, let's see. I have 4. So we have Shame on Me because it does have a historical part to it. First Class, definitely historical, on the Paul Laurence Dunbar School in Washington, D.C. And then I read The Defender, which was fantastic, which I talked to you about earlier. Well, which we talked about earlier. And finally, the yellow house again. So no surprises there. Okay, so the next pie chart is the format, so the amount of pages. And apparently I'm at 18,346 pages, which I feel like is not too shabby, but I would have preferred to push on to 20,000 if possible. But I would need to read more bigger books for that to happen. On digital, it was only 8%, which is kind of normal because I don't enjoy reading digitally, but sometimes I have to, I don't have a choice. But I prefer, turning the pages. So my print at 92% is totally up the alley for me. Then here we have also most read author, of course, is Zola, because I am doing a current reading project that was supposed to last 2 years. So Anna and I, from Anna Fiche de Lecture, have been reading Zola's Ruga Macau series. This will be year 2. So we were supposed to end in December, but we had some mess ups. So we will be finishing in 2024, the month of March. We will have finished all of the books. So we have read 18 so far. And this year, you see, I read 7 books from the Ruga Macau series. And Anna and I are reading the books in French. So here, as you can see, in languages, almost all of my books, 44 of them are in English and 7 of them are in French. So I would like this number next year to be 12. 12 books read in French would be what I would choose to do for next year. Because I've gotten back into reading in French, and I realize that I do love reading classics in French. And there are some classics that I really need to get onto that I haven't had the chance to read. I mean, I read a lot of classics when I arrived in France in 1990. But then there was a moment where I slacked off and I just started reading in English more or reading other things in French. So now that I, am back into reading in French more regularly, because I feel like 1 book a month is pretty good for me. So we're going to try to do the 12 French books next year. Okay, so here we have the breakdown of the pages and the number of books. Now, this is interesting, is the star rating. Now, for me, the star rating, you know how I am. I did my video talking about how I rate, books. And you can see here that I have 14 books that are 4 stars so far. I have 10 books that are 3.5. And I have 10 that are 5 stars. So you can see I'm like right in the area that I said, between 7 and 10 is usually what, I get for the year, especially since I only read between 50 and 70 books a year. So that tells you right there. Now, this is the first time in a while that I've had a 1 star. And I had 4 2 stars. Wow. Okay, you want to know what the 2 stars were? Emma absolutely hated that book. Emma needs to mind her business. Mind your business, Emma. I'm a fan, was not a fan. 5 Smooth Stones, terrible book. It started off so well. The first, I would say 130 pages were really, really good. And then it just went downhill. And not to mention the book was 700. My copy was more than this. This says 766 pages, but actually my copy was like 821 pages long. Oh my God, I do not recommend 5 Smooth Stones. Sorry, I just don't. Okay, so that is all I have for you on the Storygraph. I highly recommend that you join the Storygraph because it'll get you to look at your reading in a different way, not just how many books did I read, how many pages did I read. It really does break down the way you read, and even down to like when you do reviews on books and things. Like, for example, it'll ask you reading challenges. And I'm going to go here. And I'm going to go here, bel canto. So you see here, it has a breakdown. The breakdown is read, then it has journal entries. You can do journal entries if you choose. I don't do journal entries online. I do them in my reading journal. And then it says add to reading challenge, so you can click there and add. Now, it has all of these things of what I ticked. Fiction, contemporary, literary, emotional, reflective, slow-paced, tense, and sad. So you get to describe how you view that book once you've read it. So that's Storygraph that gives that description. And then the community reviews, they put them all together so that you can see what the majority of the people are saying. Are they saying that book is emotional? 73% of the people think it's emotional. And I think that's really good to see that kind of thing. You also have about plot or character driven, strong character development, lovable characters, diverse cast of characters. Now, this is the only thing that I don't answer because I don't understand what that means. Diverse cast of characters, does that mean is everybody the same race? Does that mean everybody's the same sex? What exactly does that mean, diverse cast of characters? I'm not sure. So I don't like that question, so I just don't answer it. Then it has flaws of characters, a main focus. That I answer, and then you give your star rating, and she allows us to give half ratings and 3/4 ratings. So you can do 3.75 if you want, and I think that's fantastic. Then if you go here, you will see people you follow, and then it'll tell you what they rated the book as well. And so that also is interesting. And then it has other people who have put this book as a book that they want to read. So you have that as well. I feel like this is so much better than the layout in Goodreads because it gets more in depth into the star rating that you're going to give the book. So that's all I have to say about the Storygraph. I hope you guys go and check it out. There's a free version and a paid version. I have the paid version because I have all of the pie charts. But you can still have access to reading goals and, you know, the different challenges and stuff like that. But I think if you want to have the pie charts, you have to pay. So check it out, guys. It's much better than Goodreads. Let me know what you think. And if people are enjoying Storygraph or you want to follow me on Storygraph, you see my name, Brown Girl Reading. And let me know if you're doing Storygraph, and if you are, what you think about it. So that's all I have for you today. See you with a video tomorrow. Bye.